everyone, it's time for another look at a Photoshop disaster. As usual, I found this image over at psdisasters.com, and if you can't tell, whoever edited this image really didn't bother spending too much time properly cutting out the models from their original background. Their hair is a hot mess. Let me show you how to avoid making this disaster yourself in the future. We're going to look at extracting a model with flowing hair from the background. Now, I've done a similar tutorial in the past, but I've tweaked it a little bit towards the end to give you much better results. The image that I chose isn't a typical fashion shoot image. Most photographers, if they know they're going to be extracting their models, will typically shoot them on a green screen, which makes the process a heck of a lot simpler. I chose an image with a background to show you how effective this tool really is. The first thing we need to do is create a selection of the model. Now, there are a million ways to create a selection, but in this case, we're not really looking for accuracy, so let's try out the quick selection tool. You may not see it at first, but it's over here on the left, underneath the magic wand tool. With this tool, all you need to do is brush the areas that you want to include in the selection, and Photoshop will do a pretty good job at adding on the rest. If you need to subtract an area, hold down your Option key on a Mac or Alt key on a PC while brushing. When you get to the hair area, you would assume that you need a perfect selection. In fact, we're going to keep it nice and simple. If there are any stray hairs floating around, don't even bother trying to select them. We're going to deal with them later. Alright, now that we have our nice sloppy selection complete, let's start refining the selection. We can do that using the Refine Edge tool by heading up to Select and then Refine Edge. Now, some of the options that you see here may not be available in your version of Photoshop. Some of them are specific to Photoshop CS5 only. What we see here is our model on a solid black background. Looking back at the original disaster, I think this is where they stopped. You can change how you view your final outcome under the View drop-down right over here. I prefer either black or black and white so we can see all the details. The main thing we need to focus on is the radius. Let's go ahead and increase the radius all the way up to see how the results look. Obviously at the max, the results aren't looking too great, but if we turn on Smart Radius, you'll see that some of the problem areas have fixed themselves. That's looking a little bit better. Photoshop is attempting to keep the hairs intact and at the same time remove the background, but it's not perfect. So what are we going to do? Well, the first thing we can do is turn on Decontaminate Colors at the bottom, and I'm going to increase the amount to 100%. This will deal with any colors that might be leaking onto the hair or clothing, but there are still some colors left behind. This is where the Refine Radius tool comes into play. Grabbing this tool, I'm going to brush around the hairs that we need to deal with. You'll notice, like magic, as I'm brushing, it's removing the background color, but keeping the hairs intact. Now, don't start asking me in the comments how Photoshop does this, because I have no idea. Just be happy it does it. Once you have a decent result, make sure the output is set to New Layer with Layer Mask, and press OK. So now that we have an extracted model with our hair flowing in the wind on a background of our choice, you might notice that there are some slight issues. Here's a trick. Most people who have created tutorials on this tool immediately tell you to use your layer mask to your advantage and paint in the missing areas. Sure, that might work, but I found that using the history brush works a lot better. In our Tools panel, select the history brush right here and then hop over to your history panel. We need to choose a point in history we're going to reference. Let's choose the first state by clicking the empty box to the left. Now, in your Layers panel, making sure that you have the model's layer selected and not the layer mask, start brushing over the areas that you want to improve. You'll notice that the hair is sharpening up and the missing areas are starting to come back. If we were to edit the layer mask, we would actually start seeing bits of the original background come back, but because we're leaving it intact, our result is much stronger. And there we go, our model's extracted, her hair isn't a hot mess, and she's on a nice warm beach. I really hope she appreciates all I've done for her in the last few minutes. I wish I was on a beach. Anyways, if you like this method, try it out yourself and post your results on our Facebook page over at facebook.com/iceflowstudios, and remember to check out psdisasters.com for more terrible editing jobs. Take care. In our Tools panel, select the History. I'm Sean Connery.